All right, greetings owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, and welcome to my video on the one crucial thing that you must have to win every single game of Magic. Now, you may wonder what's going on. What's with this format? Yep, we're back on the phone, still working on some issues. We'll talk about that at the end of the video though. So what is the most crucial thing that you need to have to win every game of Magic? That is your last point of life. Now, life is a really tricky thing for beginners and some players who've been playing for a while to wrap your mind around. More experienced players are familiar with the concept of, I will attack you, I'm going to attack my opponent with maybe a 4/4 or something, and then you just see them do a chump block to stop from going 20 life to 16, and it's like, why did you throw that creature away? The life points at the beginning, they don't matter. And this is a trap that we all fall into, because when I started, I remember being really excited about a card called Wooden Sphere. It's one colorless to put out, it's an artifact, and anytime you cast a green spell, you can pay 1 mana and you gain a life. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. This is so good. Every single time I cast a spell, all I have to do is pay 1 more mana to gain that life. Now, everybody who knows about those old school, I don't even remember what they called them, but they had one for every color. Everybody who knows about those old school artifacts knows that they're trash. I mean, even if you look at what they make now, they make artifacts that cost 2 to put out and will just give you a life every time you cast a spell of that color, or whenever anybody does, right? Whereas these, you had to pay 1. And yes, you could gain life when your opponent cast spells of the color as well, but still, you had to pay a mana as well. So it would slow you down. It would take extra turns. And really, when it comes to life gain, that's the biggest problem with it. People get really excited about life gain, but it's really hard to gain life in Magic, and it's really easy to lose it. That's why people are really stoked on creatures that are decently aggressive but also include lifelink, because it makes a huge difference. When you can get life tacked on, life gain I should say, tacked onto something else, then it's decently powerful. But what you have to remember is, really underneath, all that matters is that last point of life. The same way that beginners are really overexcited about life gain, they're also really terrified of paying life effects. But if you look at Magic and you look at some of the most powerful cards and what's being used, the fetch lands are a prime example, obviously. Most players, beginner players, the idea of paying a life and sacrificing a land to go and get a land from your deck seems insane, because it's like, well, I'm going to go get a land, but I've already drawn a land and I'm going to lose a life in this deal. I'm going to give up 5% of my life for that. That's insane. But that's nothing when you compare that to Street Wraith, right? Street Wraith will let you pay, it's basically 2 black, 3 colorless for a creature. The creature part of it's fairly irrelevant in all honesty. The entire purpose of the card is pay 2 life to cycle it. So you pay 2 life, you discard it, and you draw another card. Now, people run this because effectively, if you put 4 of these in your deck, it's almost like you're running a 56 card deck if you're willing to start at 12 life kind of deal. For example, if you got all 4 of them in your starting hand, you could literally, boom, drop all 4, you're down by 8 life, but you've effectively trimmed your starting deck size down, right? There's a reason. It feels bad when you lose these life points, right? It feels bad and it causes that aversion to these effects. But what the professional players understand, and I forget even professional players, but what the higher level Magic players understand is that life is a resource like anything else in the game. And really the only thing that matters is the final point of life, because I am not dead unless you can take away that point of life. It doesn't matter if I'm at 20, if I'm at 7, if I'm at 2, if I'm at 1. I'm still in the game. Obviously, there's different levels of the danger zone. And when you're playing Magic, you don't want to be sitting there in the danger zone all the time. I mean, you don't want to sit there and go, hey, you know what? Only the last point of life matters. So why not just use up 19 of my life for stupid resources? Because, I mean, obviously your opponent can kill you. So you have to be aware of the danger threshold. Is their deck something that can just poke out 1 damage? Can they lightning bolt you at any moment? In which case your threshold moves up a bit. But overall, really all you're doing when you're worried about, let's say you're worried about somebody who's playing about a lightning bolt. So you're always going to try and stay at least 4, because then you're protecting that last point of life. Those other points of life don't really matter. They're a shield to protect that last point of life. It's all about your last point of life. Don't waste chump blockers. Don't throw away creatures at the beginning going, oh, this will stop some damage. Unless you, if you really understand the matchup that you're in and you're like, no, this buys me time and an explosive move will kill me later. But I'm talking to people who are more beginner level or maybe not quite as advanced level, whatever level you want to consider yourself at. That's something you need to be aware of. Don't overvalue the higher points of life. I mean, the way that I play, I find that I don't even start to really think about my life total until I'm at 10 or lower, unless I'm playing against a deck where it's like, okay, this guy plays with massive, gigantic creatures where 1 hits the board, 2 hits, I'm dead. That kind of deal makes me reevaluate it a bit. But overall, really, all that matters is that final point of life. So being afraid of getting to low life doesn't matter. It's only that last point, and can you take it from me? It's like if I said, look, I'm going to give you this bag of marbles here. There's 20 marbles in this bag. Now my sister will bang you as long as you show up with this bag and there's at least a marble in it. Then you're not going to worry too much, right? You don't have to worry about the first 19 marbles because as long as you keep that last marble in the sack, you get to bang my sister. You feel me? So keep the last marble in the sack. Don't worry about the rest. That's basically my view on it. Life gain is overrated in most cases, unless it's tacked onto something else. Like life gain all by itself is only good if it's obscene amounts. You should never play a card that's strictly life gain unless the amount of life gain you gain is absolutely absurd. I mean, if playing a life gain card is going to give you hundreds of life, then yes, the tempo. I mean, come on now, you've got plenty of time. But I don't know, a card all by itself that only gives you, let's say, like 5 or less life, that seems like a terrible trade-off. Even if it was just like 1 mana, gain 5 life. The way that Magic works, it's so much easier to take life away because creatures are the main threat in the game. And creatures stick around turn after turn. Like you invest 2 mana into a 2/2 creature. And let's say I invest 2 mana into a 2/2 creature. I put that out. Now I can hit you every turn for 2, right? As long as you don't have a block or anything, every turn I can take 2 away from you. So if you paid 2 mana and you got yourself 10 life out of that, sure, that's great. You bought yourself 5 turns of resisting my little 2/2. But for my 2 mana, that's going to start to build up, right? That's going to carry up over time. And that's using an absurd example where I don't even know about any spells where you can get 10 mana for 2 life. But I'm trying to pick one where at least the amount of life is juicy enough that you would consider it. So in the end, pay attention to your life total, but pay attention to what your opponent's capable of doing in one burst, and don't overvalue the beginning chunk of your life total because it's irrelevant. Understand that Magic the Gathering works the same way that Dungeons & Dragons does, in that, you'll play certain games where if your character takes damage, you'll start to lose certain abilities. Like, oh, you've taken damage, your stamina's lower, or your move's slower, or you do whatever. So there's an incentive to keep your health high and not take damage. But Magic the Gathering works the same way that Dungeons & Dragons hit points do, where somebody can have 20 hit points in Dungeons & Dragons, and as long as they're not at 1 or lower, they're totally healthy. Even at 1, they still operate as if they haven't even taken damage. I played Dungeons & Dragons with a friend who had to have that explained to him. So he took an arrow and he's like, oh my god. And it's like, I know you're having fun, like the roleplay and everything, but don't worry, we don't do it that way. Dungeons & Dragons doesn't sit there and make you go, oh, my arm's been maimed and all this nonsense. So in the same way, keep in mind, there's no difference between winning at 1 life or 20 life, okay? So, moving on to talking about what's going on with the channel and the videos. Yesterday, I notified you guys that the modem was dead. Unfortunately, we had an incident, where my chair slammed into a desk, knocked over this thing of water. There was a nice old chain reaction. There you go. It's one of those, what do they call them? Gold Ruberg machines or something like that? I can't remember. Either way, right now. The point is a bunch of water ended up going into the modem and messing it up. And I ended up cleaning up all the water, but not realizing that some had leaked into Carly's keyboard. Now, for those of you who don't know, my wife is disabled, like full on in pain every day kind of disabled. So this is really unfortunate here because the keyboard that she uses that got ruined by water is specifically like a really soft touch, like no response, like even this sounds ridiculous, but this is the world that she lives in, and it's not fucking fair, but it is what it is. And I'm not trying to bring you guys down. I'm just trying to let you know, like, the situation, okay? So just using a keyboard, a regular keyboard, can cause her pain. And I can't hook her up my keyboard because my keyboard is like a mechanical, like, gaming keyboard that, like, has that tactile, like, full-on hardcore response. So her keyboard is dead. As a result, there are certain days where she's just not going to be able to edit because it's a matter of her pain level and what she can do. And these kind of keyboards they're not cheap. It's not like I can just pop over and grab her my keyboard or anything like that. I believe the person who sent this out, because this was a gift from one of the fans who sent it out for her, which was really nice. And unfortunately, I ruined it. And so I've got it back on the wish list, but until either that happens or I can replace it, it's going to impact the show. So I just wanted to let you guys know. It's just going to impact it in terms of editing though. It's not going to impact it in terms of my ability to create. I'll still get to be able to come and talk with you guys and make videos, but some days it will be like this where I can't, there won't be any of the editing or the songs. So if that feels like you're getting ripped off or whatever, you know what? I mean, feel free to unsubscribe or not come back, because when it comes down to it, I'm never going to pick my audience over my wife being in pain. That's just insane. You know what I mean? So I'm looking at this channel as a tool to better our lives in numerous ways. So I know honestly the majority of you are not going to have any issue with it, but I do like to be open and honest so it doesn't just seem like, why is this going on? So we've got a new modem, which is great, because honestly, the video that I uploaded yesterday straight off my phone was a little over 2 gigs. And my entire phone plan for the month, just so I can stream a whole month, is 20 gigs. That's the maximum you can get here. And that was 10% of it. So thankfully, we've got the wireless back so I can upload this directly from my phone. Sorry that the production value is not up to snuff. I still want to be able to share my thoughts on Magic. And I know the real ballers out there aren't going to care. So thanks for coming by. Let me know what your thoughts are, guys. And as always, I am the purple-haired one saying, fuck everybody who's not me, except you guys. Peace!